This program is rated TV PG. Some parental guidance for younger viewers is suggested.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Raw and Redeemed. I am an executive producer and co-host, DJLYFE. And across from me, you know this man right here. This is T-Bizzle, Evangelist Terrence Battle Sr. And this guy right here, say hi, Spike. No, I'm just playing, y'all. I'm just playing. This is my good buddy, my brother, my brother from Belize. He comes a long way, and you know he's been around. He's been around a hot minute. Right? This is Edwin Francis Colon. He's a movie director and producer. He's a marketing director. He is the CEO of Integrity Media LLC, which is the company that actually owns Raw and Redeemed. And he's he's an executive producer on Raw and Redeemed. And we have him here today to benefit y'all. And we're going to put him in the hot seat today. And we're going to grill him about advancing into the kingdom system and away from the world system. So he's got a lot of business experience, a lot of knowledge when it comes to business and finance and advertising. So if you have your own business, I suggest you listen real close, because this man is a wealth of knowledge right here. So, without further ado, Mr. Colon, please address the audience. Tell them where you got your start in the business world. Let's start there.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, DJLYFE, T-Bizzle, being on the show, Raw and Redeemed. And I'm grateful to God for being here, and like you introduced me with my experience starting through the educational route, but also experience in the world doing services for many people. But then God came along, Jesus came along when I accepted him into my heart to know what the kingdom is like instead of what the world tells me to be like. And so when you adapt the kingdom knowledge, the kingdom experience into what service is supposed to be like, then great things happen. And so with my education, I changed my desire for where I wanted to go, which means I had to change my major and minors in education, learning about computers, learning about the media industry, and maintaining my walk with Jesus to develop integrity throughout my life and throughout my services. And that brought a lot of experiences for me. I've spent time in the corporate world. I spent time with different nations, going to different nations and providing services too. And I've developed a lot of experience that God actually brought me through to do. For example, the Integrity Media Group, but also film production. I actually have a production company, Xanthe Films, and we've done so many wonderful work out there. Some of you may know God's Love Saved Me. It's out there right now. But I've also done work with National Geographic and Discovery channels, documentaries, and
Not to interrupt y'all, but y'all, okay, just pause right there with Discovery Channel, man, because he got a story, man.
that's right. That's right. Okay. Okay.
Crazy man done some things that I would never even think of doing.
Here's,
Tell them about the sharks, man.
okay, yes. So I've done some work with National Geographic and Discovery channels, and I've been a part of the production team, which meant that I had to go record, we call it shooting, recording different animal species for other people to see. So one experience I've had is whale sharks. And I know you're going to put a picture of what a whale shark looks like. Now, people, here's the thing. I'm black, and most people who do that type of work ain't the type of people that I am. But I went and I was recording whale sharks, and what they were doing, they were feeding on the spawn.
They're like dark meat, y'all.
Yeah, no. They're feeding on the spawn of other fishes, and they do that every year. And so I was doing that, and I had on all the gear to make sure that I had oxygen and that I was secure. But I was so small, like I am right now, and these whale sharks kept inhaling me into their surrounding, where I almost got swallowed by one.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been there.
Okay.
See what you did?
I wouldn't have been there.
Yeah,
right?
mhm.
You see what I
Right. Okay. So
We would have been on
it
another
almost
vacation.
It almost turned into a Jonah story.
Mm-hmm.
But thank God it didn't, because
Oh,
in
it's
that
swallowed by the whale.
experience, in that experience, what I had to do was what those who know how to scuba dive, by the way,
Oh.
you had to let air out of your VC, which means that out of the vessel you're wearing, you had to, before you got sucked into that whale shark's mouth, you let the air out and you sunk all the way down to the bottom.
Oh, well, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been there.
But thank you for bringing that experience. But those are the type of experiences I've had.
Jacques Cousteau, ladies and gentlemen.
That,
Jacques Cousteau. No.
He said whale shark.
Yeah, whale sharks. Yes.
I saw Jaws.
I seen all of y'all, but I ain't never gonna see them jaws.
Yeah, exactly.
Them jaws are beautiful, by the way.
I like sardines, so I guess they were thinking the opposite way.
I mean, if it was from a distance, I'd be all right. But if I'm close enough, like you was, to count teeth,
And I can,
no.
yeah, count teeth. I can smell their breath. Hey, I can feel your breath, man. Y'all send somebody else down here to record, shoot, whatever y'all call it. Y'all send somebody else down here, because I quit.
No, my brother, you're onto something there, because that's exactly how I had to end the day. But we call the end of every production that we do after recording. Then we had to have dailies, which is to recap what we've done and look at the footage. You all are not gonna see the footage. It's there, but you're not gonna see it. It's there. And of me, almost getting swallowed and having to sink down. But we saw the dailies that evening, and the entire production team. They were grateful that I didn't get swallowed, but you know why? Because I had God with me.
Yeah.
He was watching me, And throughout the journey, throughout my life, throughout everything that I've been through, that's the direction that He's brought me.
I'm glad you said that.
A kingdom direction.
I'm glad you said that, because my question to you, and you already know, being on Raw&Redeemed, when you sit on this end of the couch, that seat is on fire. On fire. So, we want to know, what was life with Edwin before the movies? You could almost get eaten by a shark, and then before you found Christ.
That's a good thing you brought that up because I always, when I meditate and spend time with the Lord, He brings me back to those moments too.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't.
Pleasant.
It wasn't pleasant. No, it wasn't. Oh no. Oh no. I was surrounded by temptation.
Mm-hmm.
I was surrounded by poverty.
Mm-hmm.
I was surrounded by attempts. And, sometimes you get surrounded by abuse.
Yeah, I understand.
But, thankfully, God entered my life at 10 years old to put all that behind me and experience what He has for me.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me a lot of knowledge, blessed me with it. I started knowing encyclopedia when I was 2 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people who know me from that age are going to remind you, yeah, you used to know the encyclopedia. Because I had that interest of reading and learning what the world was like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I also learned how to navigate the Word of God.
Yeah. Okay.
And life after the other stuff became a lot much better. The journey wasn't easy because there were still some stumbling blocks around,
Yes.
And some were caused by my negligence. Some were caused by my desire to do my own without going God's way. But I had to realign, come back and do it God's way, And that's what brought me to the platform of integrity. And that platform is so mighty because it sustains you, it protects you, and it elevates you.
Yeah. Elevation.
Yeah.
That's the key word right
Yeah.
there, y'all. Elevation. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy that you said that because that I had a second part to that question, which is in the midst of your transformation and walking in Christ, how hard was it for you to continue walking that path
Oh, yeah.
without falling back on temptation?
Yeah. It wasn't hard for me because God was with me. He showed me so many things. I answered prayers and He showed me His entire atmosphere of redemption.
That's a big word.
Yeah.
That's a big word. Redemption. That's a big word.
Yes. And to come to that atmosphere of redemption, repentance needs to be involved. And also a radical contemplation, radical thinking, radical walk, radical thinking, radical approach to
Truthfully changing who you are on the inside
Exactly.
to align yourself with
There you
the
go.
things in the wisdom of God.
Oh, you're right. Alignment. That's right. And so it wasn't hard to maintain that flow. The temptation was there. The other, obligations might, try to infiltrate the walk that, I was on. But I didn't allow it.
Yeah.
But then another thing is health got affected.
Yeah. And
And so at a young age, I was 15 years old, I had my very first health crisis. And God was with me throughout that entire process. Because I'll tell you what happened. It's a testimony of mine. At 15 years old, I was already doing major stuff outside my education, outside my household, and with other experiences that I was undertaking, which meant that, I was helping a lot of people through my knowledge that God gave me. But then I got sick. My heart started malfunctioning. And I needed a major surgery. And so the journey for that entailed a lot of God's interaction. Jesus was there with me, the power. And that experience also helped mold my integrity mentality. And so, I ended up having, no, this is what happened. Before I met the doctor who was going to conduct all this work on me, he had to examine what I was like. But I crashed. They called it heart malfunction, and I went into a coma, and they had to revive me. I almost didn't make it, but God was there.
Yeah.
It's the first step.
Yeah. Always.
And even a doctor, Dr. Clark, he said, that's a miracle. I've never seen anything like that. I was only 15 years old. And Jesus was there.
Always.
Yeah, always. And so I had my first open heart surgery at 15 years old. And 2 weeks after that surgery, I was already, and again, I'm black, right? 2 weeks after my heart surgery, I'm in the mountains of the Colorado Rockies climbing it up. Yeah.
So he wasn't climbing nothing. He was riding one of them goats.
I was saying the same thing.
Oh,
These
yeah.
are places that I would not be.
Oh, yeah. That's all, it's all God.
He was riding one of them billy goats.
Oh, no, not that. That wasn't then. Okay.
So if that means that means there's a Billy Goat story somewhere coming up.
So you went through the heart surgery, and you talked a little bit about your education, and so you shifted gears. So like, what types of just a short list? What types of what focus did you put on your education? So you know how like they, you have your majors and you have your minors, and so it all points you in them one direction.
Oh, yeah.
So if you could pick the 4 majors or the big courses you had to take to focus your life towards a life of getting into marketing and media, sales and things like that. Like, what 4 courses? Like, if you had to give somebody some advice on what they should take in college to go down that same path, like, what would it be?
For me personally, I'll say this, because when I was growing up, I was younger, I thought I was going to be a medical doctor. But what I just spoke about, that experience of me going through that heart surgery, changed that. I respect the medical industry, but I don't desire it for myself. And so that's when I decided, you know what? I'm going to do computer science. That was my first major. And then communications was my second major. My third major was film production and business administration. Those are 4 that you asked me.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's communications, the big course. That's my major right now. That's my major right now. Communications 1 and 2.
Yeah, and Ed and I had discussed this. So over the years when I went to school, I went for radio and television broadcasting and cinematography, and I ended up doing pretty much the same thing. With business, I had my own business from the age of 14, all the way, for years. I owned my own private DJ business.
Yeah.
which, I was successful. Even at a young age, I was able to do, things like that. And, like when you were young, you did a lot of, fascinating things too. And it's funny because we didn't meet until when? What was that like? That was like 2012, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Or, no, I didn't start going to there until 2013. So it was like, no, it was 2016.
2016, that's
yeah,
right.
It was 2016.
Pre-COVID.
So,
Yeah.
it was,
I already had been through,
2016, yeah.
I had even done some work for the United Nations.
Yeah.
And
Before I
I'm
got to
glad,
that
I'm
age.
glad that y'all are talking about young because you're still sitting in the same seat. So, the next question is, Raw and Redeemed is geared towards the youth
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
and building the youth and creating a future, a brighter future for the youth.
Mm-hmm.
So, the question that I'm posing to you is, can you give the audience your ethnicity? You know, but and your background, like start from the beginning of your education to now,
Okay.
from your drive in elementary school
Sure.
up until made you to where you're sitting here right now.
Yeah. I started, to young people out there, and even to parents.
Yeah,
Mm.
main goal is the
Yeah.
parents.
Education is a key to a lot of things. Being successful, and even having integrity too.
Yeah.
And so for me, it all started in preschool. I said when I was 2 years old, I was already reading the encyclopedia. But, we got to stay grounded and learning
Mm-hmm.
what's there.
I was 2 years old reading the encyclopedia too, but I was making my own words up and coloring.
Now, I have to,
Lord,
they,
fix it.
man, they used to do all kinds of stuff. I've always had a really high IQ according to the testing. And elementary school, I was really into math and sciences, and all the way through high school, accounting. I used to tutor other students.
Yeah.
So if I could emphasize one thing to the youth, education. Yeah, you may
always.
think school stinks now, but come out of there completely uneducated and see how much life stinks. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you're not getting anywhere in this life without a good education. Pay attention to your studies. Ask questions.
Yes.
Man, if you don't understand, ask questions. And just, find somebody who can help teach it to you.
Yeah.
And what goes along with that is,
Having
my
support.
my music background is, ask these fellas, man, they all know, everybody that know me know my music background is very vast. I like classical music and hip hop and R&B and Motown and rock and roll, and I listened to everything when I was coming up. And my music education started with my mom, so I got to give props to my mom in heaven. Miss her every day. But she started me as a kid listening to 50s and 60s music, and my mom, she was a flower child. She was a hippie.
Yeah.
She used to do all that kind of stuff back then, and so, and then I had my aunt who was 70s and 80s type music, and I was the 80s and 90s, and I was into a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So it's when you're talking education, it's not just about what's in the books.
Right.
It's what's in life.
Yes.
Find you a smart person like a grandfather or a father or an uncle, a mother, whatever.
Just
Find
somebody that lives through life.
and just learn something. I used to learn from when I started DJing. I used to go to different events and parties and stuff, And I would go up there and I would talk to whoever was DJing that function.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, how do you get into this business? How did you start? Where did you do to get where you are? And I would listen to what they had to say very intently. So it's not just about book studies, you know, so don't get us wrong. We're not just saying it's about books. We're telling you that the more knowledge that you feel in your mind, you know, the right kind of knowledge, you can go places. It's a vehicle to get you where you want to go. And it'll put you on a fast track. The more you know. Remember that thing, the after school thing? The more you know.
The more you know, yeah.
Oh, the star and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Man, they need to bring that back. I'll tell you.
No, mine was, I'm just the bill. Just the bill. Getting no capital. After school special, yeah. Let me ask both of y'all this question, since we on education. Ask questions. Read, education, learn. We can preach that all day. What do we tell the youth who do not have support, who do not have people that believe in them or are trying to educate them? How do we keep them on the right track to make them or to teach them to understand that?
There are other avenues you can take. Like when I was a latchkey kid, I was at the YMCA.
Yes.
We have a YMCA here in Freeport.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a YMCA pretty much everywhere. There's courses, you know, they have for kids. If you're interested in being a chef, you can take a home ec class at a YMCA.
That's right.
You can go to Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
They have all kinds of resources and avenues that you can take. If you're